Part 51. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 502. After nightfall, Rudolph hurried to the temple outside the Dordo district of Fabreau City. The wizards are most powerful at night. It is not known what accidents will happen when dealing with the temple, so it is better to be careful. It only took one night and one morning at Jennifer's place, which is not a big delay. According to Rudolph's arrangement, the witch hunters have surrounded the temple, and the police station officers are outside the witch hunters. Standing next to Speaker Aiden, Rudolph said, "I am very sorry, Director Mizu died in Gazetown. Priest Panner got the support of the evil god and attacked us in Gazetown. Director Mizu was unfortunately killed." Rudolph's words were not said to Aiden. He and Aiden did not need to communicate verbally now. If he wanted Aiden to do something, he could use Aiden's new personality to turn the order into subconsciousness, which was very hidden. His words were said to the people around Aiden to reassure them. Arden replied, "I learned the bad news this morning. Fighting heretics is always dangerous. I was once a witch hunter, so I understand the risks involved." He pointed to Perrin beside him. Perrin is now the acting director of the Judgment Bureau. When he becomes a level 4 alchemist, he will officially become the director. Perrin then reported in a low voice, "Chairman Arden, Mr. Furness, according to the investigation, Director Mizu has been very close to the evil god cult recently. He has had 4 secret talks with the painful priest Panur." Arden said, "Let's stop here about Mizu. He was the director of the Judgment Bureau who sacrificed himself to fight against the evil god cult." Perrin saw that Furness did not object, so he did not say much. For the Parliament, this is the simplest and most favorable result. Whether the director of the Judgment Bureau colluded with the evil god cult or Furness was present when the director of the Judgment Bureau died, it would be troublesome for the Parliament and easily cause adverse effects. Perrin continued, "Speaker, the situation outside is very bad, even worse than the situation in the evil temple. The believers of various sects are like crazy, trying to rush to the temple and guard it. Since Panur's death, the evil temple has issued orders to all believers. This order cannot be stopped by the Parliament at all. The believers have received instructions from the church when they prayed. There were also sounds of disputes and fights in the distance. It was the police who were entangled with the believers, trying to drive away the believers who were surrounding them." Yarden said, "This is the trouble with the evil cult. They can control the servants of God and the believers, making all our actions timid." In the night sky, several airships were already in place. The multiple rocket launchers on the side of the airships were aimed at the temple on the ground with their muzzles tilted downward. "Prepare to attack and blow the temple to the ground." More than a dozen rocket launchers fired at the same time, and the rockets dragged long tail flames and rushed towards the evil temple. Rudolph realized the benefits of being an alchemist teammate. The powerful firepower of the alchemist made many things very simple. Perrin also explained to Rudolph thoughtfully, "There are only a dozen level 3 priests in the church who are fighting desperately now. They can call on very little divine power, and the battle will soon have a result." Rockets of different effects bombarded the roof of the temple. With the support of the divine power of the god of craftsmen, a protective plate appeared on the dome of the temple. In Perrin's words, the level of the priests in the evil god cult was too low. These protective plates may have lasted for 1 second or 2 seconds, and then they were blasted open by rockets and hit the dome stone below. Continuous level 5 alchemical rockets continued to bombard the temple, and terrible explosions occurred in the temple. Soon, the tall temple was engulfed by artillery fire. The rockets completed the first round of attack, and most of the rockets entered the reloading stage. The dust gradually dissipated, and only a few wall roots were left where the temple was, and the temple with the dome no longer existed. In the ruins, a figure stood up shakily. It was a level 3 priest. He shouted, "When the gods set foot on the northern continent again, You will pay the price for your blasphemous behavior. Another rocket fell from the sky, and the remaining threats of the priest were blown into ashes before they could say them. Rudolf, who watched the whole process, felt that the alchemist's methods were still very cool, simple and crude, efficient and powerful. The operation was over, and Rudolf walked towards their newly bought home. The police officers who were deployed had evacuated, and the collapsed believers rushed to the ruins of the temple. They cried bitterly around the ruins of the temple, and fell to the ground and grabbed the dust left by the ruins. These people are pitiful. Once they become believers of the evil god, their emotions and behaviors are out of their control. The worship of the evil god completely changed their mental state. Rudolf watched the miserable appearance of the believers from the periphery for a while, and left silently, hoping that they could get over their dependence on the evil god as soon as possible and recover a part of their mental state. While walking on the road, Rudolf suddenly noticed that someone followed him. Standing under the street light, Rudolf looked back and saw a young man, Zach. "Mr. Rudolf, do you still remember me?" A former beggar in Lehman Town, he later entered the orphanage in the Dordo district and was one of the children taken in by Rudolf and Ivan at the time. By chance, Zach became a servant of pain through the pain slate, which gave him the ability to protect other beggars at the time. "Of course I remember you." Ivan was contacting the children who had lived in the orphanage. "She didn't find you. How are you now?" Zach's eyes were drooping, and he was in uncontrollable pain in his heart. This is a terrible feeling. It is painful, but the divine power in the body is more active. "Mr. Rudolf, I'm leaving." "Leave? Where to?" Zach said, "Mr. Rudolf, I am now a level 2 pain priest. I have received guidance. God wants all believers to gather in the kingdom of Elba. The church will land at the port of Elba. We must respond to the call of the church." Zach did not volunteer, but once he became a believer of the evil god, many things were out of his control. "Mr. Rudolf, the children in the orphanage have grown up a few years, and most of them can survive, but I still want to ask you, I hope you can provide them with some help." "Okay, I will make some arrangements." After speaking, Zach turned around and prepared to leave. He had just taken 2 steps when he suddenly heard a voice behind him. "I'm sorry, Zach." Zach looked back, a little confused, wondering why Mr. Rudolf wanted to apologize. "I didn't know much about the evil god at that time, and I didn't know that this was such a cruel apostle's path. If I had known it earlier, I would have stopped you from becoming a servant of pain." The more Rudolf knew about the evil god cult, the more he regretted that he had stopped Zach. Just like parents with poor conditions don't want to have children, they don't want their children to suffer with them. At that time, Rudolf was only a level 2 wizard. He had no ability to protect a wizard apprentice, and finally watched Zach become a servant of God. Zach smiled and said, "Mr. Rudolf, everyone has their own destiny. I have done a lot with my ability in the past few years, and I am already very satisfied. You don't need to apologize, I am very glad to know you." From the beggars in Lehman Town, to the orphanage in the Dordo district, to the children struggling to survive in Fabro City, Zach felt very lucky. Rudolf saw Zach's figure disappear in the darkness, sighed, and didn't know if there was really a destiny. He hoped that Zach could climb out of the abyss in the future. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 503. When the evil temple was blown up, the believers felt that the sky was falling. Half a month after the evil god's temple was blown up, most believers were much less affected by the evil god, and gradually got used to a life without a temple, without the need for formal sacrifices and prayers. Except for the servants of God, who are the most ordinary believers, the priests, like Zach, were summoned to the kingdom of Elba by the order of the church. Not only the priests in Fabro City are like this, but every train in Fabro City's train station is overcrowded. Many priests can be seen taking the train from the north through Fabro city and entering the kingdom of Elba. There is a feeling that a storm is coming, and I wonder if the kingdom of Elba can withstand it. After the evil temple was blown up, the Alchemy Council did not repair the Parliament building and council hall in the city center. Instead, they chose a day to blow up the burned Black Council building and council hall, and abandon the city center. Next to the freight terminal in the city of Fabro, the Parliament began construction of a new Parliament building. The Parliament will establish a new district here, and the police station and judicial office will also be moved to the new district. In the future, the new area is the development direction of the city council. It will mainly focus on mineral trade, and a mineral trading hall will also be built. This is the attitude of the Alchemy Council. The Night of Blood Mist weakened the council's legitimacy in power. The city council chose to reduce its presence and only seize the mining area and freight station to seize the minerals. The old town of Fabro City has become a city where blood servant miners, evil god believers, and foreign refugees live together. The police would come to maintain basic order, while the witch hunters focused on maintaining the mineral trade. Less taxes and high compensation payments received every quarter have made citizens' lives better and better, so much so that when citizens see the police officers who are trying their best to maintain order, they have become a little fond of them. After reaching a compromise with the Parliament, Rodolfo wrote to Madame Jessica and Yanilla, telling them that they could move back to Fabro. For low-level heretics like Mrs. Jessica, Fabro City is now much safer. Rudolph will definitely go home in the evening and discuss with Yvonne how to outnumber the enemy. At noon, he sometimes discussed offensive and defensive changes with Jennifer, and sometimes discussed eloquence with Yanilla. Jennifer and Yanilla were better off. After Yvonne became a level 5 werewolf, her health was not good enough, which caused Rudolph to miss frequently. Rudolph, who has become a master of time management, has lived the life of no fixed abode that he always dreamed of, but recently he has been suffering from pain in his lower back and emptiness in his lower abdomen. Rudolph, who was under great pressure, had to seek some off-court assistance. There were many plague vectors in the city hospital. When the furnace entered the city hospital, the nurse at the reception desk was startled. After a while, Dean Mason walked quickly to receive him personally. The melting pot has moved all the parliaments to the new district. Who wouldn't be cautious? When Rudolph entered the dean's office, he saw a dozen doctors already inside. Dean Mason said, "Mr. Furness, when you enter the hospital gate, I will summon the highest level doctors from each department of the hospital. Please give me your orders." Rudolph coughed, "Well, won't this affect the operation of your hospital?" "It doesn't matter, we have already arranged the shift schedule, and all the doctors who will be attending the clinic are on duty, so there won't be any problems. It's not like I'm sick. I understand that I will never tell anyone about your health condition. My doctor is professional and has great medical ethics and will never reveal the patient's privacy. There are just some health issues that need to be consulted. Let the doctors go to work." "Okay, exactly as you asked." After the doctors dispersed, Rudolph saw only Dr. Marion standing behind Dean Mason. Dean Mason explained, "Marion has the highest level, and she is a level 3 plague vector like me." Rudolph had dealt with Dr. Marion, and Dr. Marion had helped him establish bloodlines in the Dordo and Bayer districts. Center. "Dr. Marianne, I have something to ask Dean Mason." "Please leave first." Marianne instantly guessed what Rudolph wanted to ask. "If it's andrological dysfunction, I'm very good at it." Even the white uniform can't hide Marianne's curvy figure. She may be really good at it when she says she's good at it. Mason frantically combed his remaining hair. His Marian medical skills and plague-mongering skills were indeed powerful, but he didn't understand a man's self-esteem. What is andrological dysfunction? Mr. Furness is absolutely as powerful as his wizard in this aspect. There can be no obstacles. At most, he only needs a little health care. Mason turned to Rudolph. Do you think so, Mr. Furness? Rudolph rolled his eyes at Marianne, nodded and said, I just wanted to ask if there is any good way to get a little health care. Mason turned to Marianne and said, Marianne, you leave first. I am better at this than you. After all, I am also a man. He thought that the Furness was here to see a doctor, so he kept Marianne, who was the most skilled. If he had known that the purpose of the Furness was to discuss health care, he would not have kept Marianne. Marianne reluctantly left, and then Mason explained to Rudolph in detail the methods of dietary supplements and medicinal supplements. Seeing that Furness's expression seemed dissatisfied, Mason quickly said, Mr. Furness, I don't think these conventional methods are of much help to you. I also know a more effective method. Then you might as well explain it in detail. As a man, Rudolph had to act like he was not in a hurry to know. The apostles have their own methods, which are much better than food and medicine. As far as I know, the late vice president of Fabreau City, Claude, relied on this method when he was young to gain abilities that other men envy. Oh? And Claude's story? Dean Mason lowered his voice a few points. I also heard that taking the silver snake and the abstinence priest at the same time will have miraculous effects. Take? How to take? Mason hurriedly explained, Mr. Furness, it's not what you think. It's not stewing the silver snake relics and the abstinence priest relics, but a special way of taking it. I corrected for a moment, even wizards don't have such a strange method as stewing relics. Tell me how to take it? Mason's expression became blurred, and there was a bit of shrinkage in the blur. Silver snake can stimulate men's desire, and the abstinence priest can eliminate men's desire. If the combination is good, that is, the silver snake is one level higher than the abstinence priest, repeated multiplayer will have miraculous effects. Repeatedly? Multiplayer. You know, it's what you think. I didn't expect it. Claude actually hid such a big shocking secret and didn't tell Rudolph, and actually kept such a big trick for Rudolph. Rudolph treated Claude as his brother, and fought for half his life for revenge, but Claude actually hid his secrets and bullied him too much. Rudolph decided not to go to the cemetery to offer flowers this month to express Rudolph's anger. But this method is so difficult to achieve. He has the silver snake, but where can he find the abstinence priest who is one level lower than Yanilla? The priests have all gathered in the kingdom of Elba at the call of the evil god. Do they have to go to the port of Quarter again for their own happiness? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 504. Trains came from the north. The first few carriages of the train were filled with soldiers, the middle carriages were mostly filled with weapons and ammunition, and the rear carriages were filled with airship accessories, including folded airbags, cannons on airships, etc. From time to time, airship formations flew across the sky. Most airships had the hull of another airship hanging under them, which was equivalent to two hulls hanging under one airbag. In order to reduce the weight of the second hull, all the weapons and ammunition that could be disassembled were disassembled and transported to the front line by train. The soldiers were informed in advance that after passing this train station, they would enter the front line. When passing this train station, they must be extra careful because terrible wizards were active here some time ago. The soldiers could not bear the stuffiness in the carriages, so they grabbed their weapons and got off the carriages one by one and smoked outside the carriages. Some soldiers looked at the city not far away, a little puzzled. What a powerful wizard. I heard that he finally compromised with the wizard. He should be very powerful, otherwise there are so many troops on the border, and if they just transfer some of them here, this small city can be bombed into ruins, not to mention a wizard. The soldiers did not know the specific situation, they only saw the superior officers asking them to return to the carriage immediately, and after a simple supply of food and fresh water, the train again emitted thick smoke and headed for the border. Passing by Fabro again, Bali, the director of the 19th Army's Quartermaster Department, did not enter Fabro, but only walked around the new area around the station. He looked in the direction of the city and asked Arden, "Speaker Arden, has the furnace never had any conflicts with the parliament again?" "No, the furnace kept its promise and did not cause trouble for the parliament again." "Did the furnace also not destroy our transportation lines?" "No, in the settlement agreement, the furnace will not attack the parliament again, especially the mining area and freight lines, where everything is normal." "Is the character of the furnace trustworthy? Will he destroy our transportation lines at the critical moment of the war?" "Please believe me, the military, I will handle the relationship with the furnace well. At least from now on, after serving justice for Claude, the furnace is not interested in other things." "Are you sure I don't need to apply to my superiors for a military action to destroy the furnace?" "Don't do that," Arden said quickly. "Of course it's good to be able to destroy it, but after more people are invested, it's inevitable that the news will leak out. Once the furnace escapes, Fabro City will never have a peaceful day in the future. The speaker and councillors of Fabro City are very satisfied with the current state of reconciliation, and others can't say anything. Colonel Gayton stayed here to take charge of the safety of the logistics line, and Bale continued to escort the airships to the front line. The train line became extremely busy, and there was a strange contrast between Fabro City and the suburbs, as if the area around the freight station was the city center, and the city center had become the suburbs. After returning to Fabro City, Mrs. Jessica and Yanila finally chose a house in the Dordo district. After Rudolph came out of Jennifer's mansion, he felt unsatisfied and was ready to go to Yanila to talk to her about some very in-depth topics. The rich live in the Brown district, the blood servants and miners live mainly in the Bayer district and the Rondo district, and the servants of the evil gods used to live in the Dordo district. Just like Zack was called to leave by the evil god cult, the servants of the gods also received a call. They left the Dordo district and set out on the road to the kingdom of Elba. Walking on the streets of the Dordo district, I found that it had become much quieter. The Dordo district suddenly became much emptier. These servants of God may never return to Fabro City. They will continue to worship the evil god in the kingdom of Elba. If they are lucky enough to survive a few years later, they will go to the southern continent to worship the holy land of the evil god. In the eyes of the servants of God, they are happy. Their empty spiritual world has faith. In Rudolph's eyes, they are pitiful. They have been unable to control their behavior without knowing it. Walking slowly on the street at night, there was only the sound of Rudolph's footsteps on the whole street. When he reached the mouth of a deep alley, Rudolph suddenly stopped and looked into the depths of the alley. The street lamp dragged Rudolph's shadow very long, and the shadow pierced into the depths of the alley. This shadow was motionless, which made the people in the alley feel uneasy. The people in the deep alley raised their heads and looked at the entrance of the alley. With the street lamp on his back, he could only see the silhouette of a person. At the end of the alley was a vampire, who was hugging an ordinary person's shoulders. The ordinary person's head was hanging back, leaving his neck exposed. The vampire was very angry that someone had appeared and interrupted his meal. Several castle bats suddenly flew out and flew towards Rudolph. Level 1 vampires have a lifespan of 200 years and can control castle bats. The appearance of castle bats is enough to prove his identity. I don't know if it was dazzled or the people at the entrance of the alley were scared away after seeing the castle bats. Anyway, the people at the entrance of the alley and the long shadow disappeared. The vampire lowered his head, his red pupils full of hunger. He was too hungry. He had finally been promoted to a level 1 vampire. The blood distributed to him by the family was not enough, so he had to hunt on his own. However, before his fangs bit the ordinary person's throat, a starlight water snake bit his neck first. The vampire covered his neck and tried to pull the snake away, but his strength had no effect. The snake's fangs bit deeper and deeper. With red pupils full of rage, the vampire turned around and stared at the person behind him and said viciously, "Don't meddle in other people's business. This is the city of the furnace. It's the city of heretics." The vampire looked up at Rudolph, not knowing who he had met. Rudolph frowned, and immediately figured out why this vampire was so rampant and dared to attack ordinary people directly in the streets. Under the leadership of Arden, the parliament admitted its mistakes thoroughly, which was certainly a good thing, but for the parliament, their image was now at its lowest point. Before the first compensation was sent to the people, the parliament's governance of Fabreau City became very difficult. There is no vacuum of power. When the existence of the parliament declines, the forces that were previously suppressed by the parliament will be ready to move and fill this vacuum. The vampire in front of him believed that the furnace defeated the parliament, and now the city belonged to heresy, so he could do whatever he wanted. This shitpot made Rudolph very uncomfortable, and he couldn't help injecting more toxins. The toxins injected by the water snake were enough to poison a level 4 giant to death, not to mention this level 1 vampire. After the vampire died, Rudolph looked at the ordinary person, who should be a refugee from the kingdom of Elba. After sighing, Rudolph did not plan to go to Yanilla, but walked towards the court. He did not want Fabreau City to become a city of crime, and he did not want anyone to come out and bully others. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 505. With the relocation of the parliament, the tribunal also changed its location. The current trial office is located underground in a block in Bayer district. It is not listed and has completely become an underground organization. The underground space between the 4 streets in this block is all the territory of the Judicial Bureau. After briefly recounting what he had just seen in the Dordo district, Rudolph did not understand that the vampires were eating on the street. He wanted to know if there was any problem with the judicial office. Palin quickly explained. "Mr. Furness, the biggest problem in the judicial office now is the shortage of manpower. The first reason is that disasters such as the Night of Blood Fog cause drastic changes in the population structure of Fabreau City. It is difficult for us to find enough wealthy families to train new alchemists. The Inquisition can rely on heretic witch hunters, but alchemists must account for the majority, otherwise big problems will arise. The second reason, and I'm not afraid of your displeasure, is that your attack on the tribunal has led to a sharp decline in the number of witch hunters. In particular, many people believe that witch hunting in Fabreau City is a high-risk industry, and no one wants to be a witch hunter here. These reasons have led to a significant decline in the tribunal's ability to control Fabreau City. There are currently less than 50 witch hunters in the Inquisition office, and we really do not have the ability to handle so many emergencies." Rudolph was a little embarrassed, and he had a lot of responsibility in this. After thinking about it, Rudolph asked Palin to find Ahriman. Ahriman had already been waiting outside the door. Something big must have happened when the teacher came to the trial office. In the battle between the teacher and the Alchemy Council, he actually showed no performance. Because his level was too low, the teacher did not allow him to participate. But he later learned that Blanca, as a patrol officer, helped the teacher at a critical moment and changed the direction of the battle, which made Ahriman very anxious. Standing next to the map of Fabreau City, Rudolph motioned for Ahriman to come over. "Ahriman, you are responsible for establishing a team in Dordo district, called the Scavenger Team. The main task of this team is to protect ordinary people in Dordo district and clean up the apostles in Dordo district. Those who come to Fabreau City for business and the refugees who come to Fabreau City, most of them now live in the Dordo district, and they cannot be allowed to be harassed by the apostles anymore. Any apostle who enters the Dordo district and has evil intentions will be immediately driven away or killed directly. Especially those apostles who feed on ordinary people, werewolves who directly eat people, vampires who suck blood, and vectors who create plagues, etc. Ahriman, go to the city police station and ask Blanca to lead some police officers to protect the security of Dordo district. The joint action of the tribunal and the police department must at least ensure the safety of Dordo district and prevent ordinary people here from suffering any more disasters. Palin was a little excited. The Forge was actually considering the security of Fabro City. It seems that Speaker Arden's compromise is very correct. The furnace is from Fabro City and will not sit back and watch the law and order in Fabro City deteriorate. Palin asked, Mr. Furnace, Ahriman is very promising, but he is only a level 2 apostle now. What should he do if he encounters a high-level apostle hiding in Dordo district? It's okay. You will follow my arrangements in a week. I will clear out those high-level apostles who are hiding deep in the Dordo district. After receiving the mission, Ahriman immediately selected team members and stationed them in Dordo district. Ahriman believes that he can definitely produce very good results within a week. A week later, Ahriman, with dark circles under his eyes, submitted a report to Rudolph, Teacher, I can handle 2 apostles in Dordo district every day. This efficiency is already very high. Going to the police station to read the police report, interviewing witnesses or conducting autopsies, searching for evidence, and arresting hidden persons. Doing these things with such high intensity almost makes Ahriman's team members collapse. Very good, Ahriman, you did a good job. From now on, the scavenger team will continue to do these things to maintain deterrence and keep the Dordo district peaceful. At this time, the teacher and the people from the judicial office were outside the Dordo district, preparing to start a cleanup operation in accordance with the teacher's request. In Ahriman's view, this night is very ordinary. If anything is different, it is that the moon tonight is very round and the moonlight is very bright, which is conducive to movement at night. The police department has mobilized half of its force, and the trial department has mobilized all its personnel. They will be responsible for several main streets on the boundary of Dordo district, preventing the heretic apostles discovered by the furnace and preventing others from entering Dordo district. Rodolfo walks the streets of the Dordo district, starting tonight's hunt. He looked up at the full moon, his eyes unfocused, focusing on the star map, listening to more and more gibbering. Starlight water snakes slipped from Rudolph's sleeves and twisted into the surrounding darkness. In order to cooperate with the furnace, the only remaining airship of the Municipal Judiciary Office, an airship of the police department, took off within the agreed time. 2 airships were cruising over the Dordo district, obviously trying to make some noise in the Dordo district. What's going on? Why is the judicial office here? Has the furnace left Fabro City? The babble increased, and soon Rudolph heard useful information. I'm hiding in the bakery, it should be safe. In the bakery at night, everything was quiet. A level 3 vampire was hanging upside down on the roof, motionless, waiting for the end of the trial operation. The Fast family in the Ruhr mining area is a little strange now. This vampire has escaped from the family. After escaping, the family did not vigorously hunt for him. He even speculated that his ancestor Fast had been killed, otherwise his blood father Fast could easily find him by relying on the power of blood. Recently, he has collected a lot of blood, and will soon be able to collect enough blood for the ancient coffin when he is promoted. When everything is ready, he will join another blood clan family and seek promotion. Just as he held his breath and did not move, a water snake with a faint blue light crawled from the roof frame behind him. The water snake suddenly raised its head and bit the blood clan's ear fiercely. There was a muffled sound in the bakery, as if someone fell from the air to the ground. Ahriman, with the starlight water snake wrapped around his wrist, pushed open the door of the bakery under the guidance of the water snake and found the dead level 3 blood clan. After cutting off the relics, Ahriman had gone from shock to numbness. This was his 5th time harvesting relics tonight. The atmosphere is so solemn, why don't we go to the jewelry store to find a hostage? A plague carrier slowly moved his feet and came to the back window of the jewelry store. When he climbed up the rear window, he suddenly saw a water snake with a faint blue light lying on the window sill. Oops! When he reacted, it was too late. The starlight water snake bit his hand that was climbing the window sill fiercely, and the plague carrier fell to the ground. Under the guidance of the starlight water snake, Blanca came to the vicinity and took away the relics. Perrin on the airship was shocked by the methods of the furnace. Only he and 2 students of the furnace knew the truth of tonight's events. Tonight, the furnace personally took action to clean up the heretic apostles in the Dordo district. The furnace was too terrible. It easily caught so many heretics. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 506. In Bayer District, on the rooftop of the Black Gold Institute, Windsor, the guide, looked in the direction of Dordo District and fell into silence. There were a large number of apostles dying there, one after another. Someone is cleaning up the apostles, and they are even more ruthless than the tribunal. This is a declaration, which means that the apostles will not be allowed to enter Dordo District easily in the future. Once they enter, they will be mercilessly attacked by that person. The Forge, the devil in Fabreau City. He used to be the most troublesome person for the council. After the council compromised, the Forge became the most troublesome person for the other apostles in Fabreau City. No one is the opponent of the furnace. For this small town, the furnace is beyond its scope. I wonder if there will be many relics at the Black Gold Exchange on the next trading day. The voice of trade host Tabo came from behind. There should be quite a few. I heard that there are 2 wizard apprentices in the furnace. 2 wizards will not use many relics. Fortunately, we helped those wizard apprentices according to the arrangements of the furnace, and our relationship has been maintained very well. On the airship of the tribunal, Palin was thinking, why didn't he surrender to the furnace earlier, instead of reaching a settlement with the furnace? Look at how tough the Forge is. It says it cleans up the apostles in an area, but it really cleans it up. This is something even the Judgment Office can't do. I don't know what special abilities the level 5 wizards have, but they can actually find such people in such a short time. Many apostles. In the future, the governance of Dordo district will be much better, and the security will even be better than that of the wealthy Brown district, which does not have the endorsement of the melting pot. In a private house, Mrs. Jessica closed the curtains. Why did I hear a scream? Mom, that's an illusion. If Rudolph takes action, it's impossible for others to call him out. Oh? Really? What is Rudolph doing tonight? He said he wanted to clean up the Dordo area and deal with the excessive number of apostles. The cleaning operation lasted for a long time. After several hours, Rudolph stopped. Even his current physique felt a little tired. Unexpectedly, there are more than 50 apostles of level 2 or above hidden in one Dordo district. There are many more apostles hidden in the darkness than Rudolph imagined. Fighting is not tiring, but finding them through Babel is tiring and troublesome. It would be great if Babel can evolve. The current Babel is still a bit vague. In the back kitchen of a restaurant, there was a knock on the door. The tall chef sat up from the bed in the lounge and walked towards the door. Long time no see, Mr. Butcher. During this search, Rudolph found an acquaintance. After dealing with the apostles, he finally came to see this acquaintance. Long time no see, Rudolph. Through Butcher's ravings, Rudolph learned that Butcher had been promoted to a level 4 giant, and was a little happy. Butcher was promoted even though he was hiding, and he became a level 4 giant. The two came to the kitchen backyard and sat on chairs. There were still 2 young men standing in the backyard. Butcher asked, "Is this your wizard apprentice?" "Yes, my wizard apprentices are now level 2 wizards," Rudolph and Arimon said. "This is Butcher, a level 4 giant. He was a butcher in Lehman Town. He is a Lehman Town giant like me. I don't know who gave the name giant. It's really embarrassing. Such a small in Lehman Town, How big can it be? Claude's father gave it to me, and I think it's a terrible name. Arimon and Blanca both looked at the tall chef curiously. They were surprised that there was a level 4 giant hiding in Dordo district. One of them is a witch hunter and the other is a police officer, representing the Alchemy Council, the strongest official force. The teacher is also a furnace. They used to walk in the Dordo district, and the two of them did not feel that there was much danger. Looking back now at the many apostles hiding in the Dordo district, both Arimon and Blanca were a little scared. If any apostle wants to kill the two of them at any cost, whether it is the teacher or the council, they will only collect the bodies. In the darkness under the moonlight, there are dangerous beasts hiding one after another. Mr. Butcher, you have never left Fabreau City. Rudolph didn't know what Butcher had gone through when he was young, and why he was so timid, unlike Rudolph, who was very stubborn. Thank you for this. You hit the judgment office hard, making this place very suitable for hiding, Butcher asked. Rudolph, what you did tonight is not too much. Even the judicial office does not often do this kind of large-scale suppression. It's not too much. I didn't launch a cleanup in Fabreau City. I just cleaned up the Dordo district. Let others know that this is my sphere of influence. Don't cross the boundary easily. Butcher couldn't help but shake his head. My many years of hiding experience tell me that your behavior is not a long-term solution. What will happen if you clean it up? This small Fabreau City cannot accommodate you, and you will leave here sooner or later. Yes, I will leave sooner or later. I will go to the southern continent to continue to accommodate the characteristics of the southern constellations, and I will also seek opportunities to become a level 6 Zhongtian wizard. After I leave, my students will continue this matter, and I hope you can take care of them. Butcher glanced at Rudolph's two students. It's okay to take care of them, but do they have to clean up the apostles in Dordo district like you? Rudolph did not answer directly, but asked, Mr. Butcher, do you want to know Claude's last words before he died? What last words? I was not around when Claude died. I did not hear those last words myself. They were written in Abel's notebook. Even Abel was bothered by them and would look through them from time to time. Give the people of Dordo a chance to live, this is what Claude asked Abel for before he died. Rudolph was silent for a few seconds, then continued. It's too tragic, ordinary people in Dordo are too miserable. They should not be trampled to death by the apostles like maggots. The vampires treat them as blood food and want to make them into blood servant. The priests used them as sacrifices to the evil god, and thousands of people in the Dordo district died in droves. Claude and I once tried to prevent the disaster, but we both failed. What we are doing now is to make up for the guilt we felt at the time. I hope there will be an area in Fabreau City where ordinary civilians can live in peace and quiet, without being so afraid of being targeted by the apostles one day and dying miserably or living a life worse than death. Speaking of how miserable the people in the Dordo district were, Butcher, who had been hiding in the Dordo district, knew more details, and he remained silent. Mr. Butcher, I don't need you to do anything more. If possible, give my two students more chances to survive when I leave. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 507. Okay, I promise you, if possible, I will take care of your students, Butcher said. In fact, with your current reputation, as long as you are not dead, your students will be fine. You can keep your students' biological credentials, hair or blood stains, etc. In case your students are in trouble, you can find someone to tell fortunes. Make multiple guarantees, and I will also go to the Alchemy Council and ask them to promise that they will not liquidate my students after I leave. Then you have to be careful, the promises of alchemists are used to overturn, and they only make promises when it is beneficial to them. I understand, I have dealt with the Alchemy Council a lot and know how to deal with them. Ahriman and Blanca were very happy to hear that their teacher's friend, a level 4 giant, was willing to provide them with a certain degree of protection. However, the next words made Blanca unhappy. The next topic suddenly became informal. Rudolph, when you said goodbye last time, you suggested that I find a female giant to try in-depth communication in the giant form. The fat on Butcher's face was full of pride and complacency. Oh? How do you feel? Please tell me in detail. Blanca coughed quickly, but could not stop Butcher, the rough man, from describing. Rudolph, it is exactly as you guessed, the sudden move shook the earth and the mountains collapsed and cracked. Blanca looked at the teacher in disbelief. Sheriff Kelida said that teacher Rudolph was a serious person, much more serious than their former Sheriff Claude, but judging from the description of the giant, the teacher actually made such a guess. Rudolph had an expression on his face that it was as expected. He suddenly remembered something and turned to look at his students. Ahriman, you and Blanca go out first and wait for me outside the door. Mr. Butcher and I have something to talk about. The teacher finally remembered that there was a female student who had no experience in love at the scene. Blanca turned around and walked out, but Ahriman paused every 3 steps and dragged his heels to move his feet. He wanted to listen, but he was afraid that Blanca would be unhappy. Before closing the door, Ahriman still heard some key information, only Butcher's words came out. Don't look for a high-level female giant. That's like a fine needle stirring a large vat. Female giants of the same level as you are okay, they are evenly matched and very durable. It's better to find a female giant of a lower level. It's difficult for a rabbit to get in and out of a mouse hole, you know. Ahriman was envious of this. Are high-level apostles so good at playing? He wanted to listen more, but Blanca had already closed the door heavily. Ahriman, why is the teacher so excessive? Why does he care about these boring things? Men, some talk about flowers, some think about flowers, and some play with flowers. Blanca's voice suddenly became cold. You seem to be very experienced. It's not my experience. It's the teacher's experience. He told me. You know, you are a girl, and there are some things he is not convenient to discuss with you. There was a teasing sound in the yard, as if it was mocking this bloody night, as if the death of those apostles was just a trivial matter, not as good as the reunion of the teacher and his old friend, nor as good as those strange and bizarre skills. After more than 10 minutes, Rudolph came out of the yard with an unsatisfied look. After leaving Butcher's restaurant, Ahriman and Blanca took out the relics they had harvested tonight. Rudolph picked out a few relics that he had never seen before, and gave the rest to the 2 students. Take these relics, they can speed up your progress in becoming a level 3 wizard. Now it is December, Sagittarius month, and next year you can plan to become a level 3 wizard. Dozens of relics are a feast for wizards. Ahriman and Blanca are very excited. It is indeed different to have a teacher. Not only do they no longer have to hide from the east and west, but their growth rate is amazing. Blanca thinks that she should stop caring about the teacher's personal morality, as if it is not very important. After Rudolph got a few new relics, Libra in the star map was completely lit up. Originally, he wanted to slow down the lighting speed of the star map, but recently he was too murderous and lit up Libra unconsciously. A beam of light fell from Libra, and Rudolph obtained his 8th forbidden technique, Libra forbidden technique, the Salt Covenant that cannot be betrayed. Salt is so important that the Red Wolf King was willing to cooperate with Quint, and one of the conditions was that the Parliament was willing to give him a lot of salt so that he could make huge profits by selling salt to other werewolf tribes. Salt has the characteristics of lasting and not deteriorating, and it also has the function of sterilization and preservation. People discovered very early that food pickled with salt can be preserved for a long time. Salt is a symbol of never spoiled in life. In the customs of many places, both parties eat some salt as a ceremony to end the covenant, which is called the Salt Covenant. Later, the Salt Covenant became sacred, and those who violated the Salt Covenant would be despised by the people around them. The Libra forbidden technique obtained by Rudolf is the same as the Gemini forbidden technique. It has no direct attack ability and is a spiritual forbidden technique. The Salt Covenant that will never be abandoned, using one of your own promises in exchange for one of the other's promises, the Libra's star power directly hits the other's soul, ensuring that the other party will never abandon the promise he made and will not have any thoughts of abandoning the promise. When the other party makes a promise, no matter whether he is sincere or willing, as long as Rudolf makes a promise, this forbidden technique will be established and the other party will never be able to break his promise. This forbidden technique seemed very fair and equal, and Rudolf immediately figured out how to manipulate it. The other party's promise can be very serious, but Rudolf's promise can be something as trivial as having to eat bread tonight. On the surface, it is one promise for another, as fair as a scale. However, the fulcrum of the scale is determined by the Libra wizard. Both ends of the scale are equally flat. According to the principle of leverage, whoever has the fulcrum close to it will suffer. Rudolf raised his head and glanced at the airships of the Judicial Department and the Police Department. How about going there to try the effects of the forbidden technique? The cleanup operation was over, the Inquisition's airship landed, and the witch hunters scattered to dispose of the apostle's body. Not disposing of these corpses will cause panic tomorrow and is unhygienic. Palin accompanied Rudolf as he walked on the streets of Dordo district. He said carefully, "Mr. Furness, I would also like to thank you. You have dealt with many stubborn diseases in Dordo district. Some criminals are members of the trial department. It's hard to spot repeat offenders." Rudolf put his hand on Palin's shoulder and said, "It's just a casual job, it's nothing. I also have something to ask Director Palin. Please tell me. In the future, the Fabreau City Trial Office, especially you, will strongly support Arimon and Blanca, help them grow, and provide them with identities and security." Palin hurriedly bent down, "As it should be, I promise that I will provide Arimon with identity and safety protection, and help him grow into a powerful wizard." Palin was reluctant. As a witch hunter, who wanted to provide protection for wizards? But being pressed on the shoulders by the furnace, if he didn't agree, he would die miserably in a corner like the apostles who were cleaned up tonight. "In return, I also promise that I will give you a witchcraft weapon." After speaking, Rudolf took out a level 3 wolf fang dagger and handed it to Palin. Palin was stunned. This magic weapon was not valuable, and the gift of the furnace seemed inexplicable. Could it be that a level 3 magic weapon could make Palin sincerely fulfill his promise? When Perrin took over the witchcraft, his pupils suddenly trembled, and the huge force of the Libra star fell from the sky, heading straight into Perrin's soul. Rudolf fulfilled his promise, and unless Rudolf dies, Palin will fulfill his promise, and an unbreakable salt pact is reached. This forbidden technique is very powerful, but unfortunately it can only be used once a month. It is a very restrictive forbidden technique. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 508. After cleaning up, Rudolf and the two students walked outside the Dordo area. It was late at night, and the surrounding streets became extremely quiet. It was so quiet that even the cats and dogs knew that tonight was special and did not dare to leave the hiding corner. All dangerous heretical apostles were eliminated by Rudolf. When the news spreads tomorrow and ferments, ordinary people in Dordo district will no longer have to worry about the danger from the apostles for a long time. Only a few whom Rudolf was sure were harmless, such as Mrs. Jessica or Mr. Butcher, were left behind. I hope that ordinary people in Dordo district, those lucky ones who have survived several disasters, or those refugees, can have a good life in the future. Rudolf's steps were brisk, Arimon followed closely, but Blanca was last. Seeing Blanca's unhappy look, Rudolf asked, Blanca, why are you unhappy? Is there any apostle who has a grudge against you who has not been eliminated, and you are embarrassed to say it? It doesn't matter, you give us clues and I'll go find him. Our sect does not talk about reason, only about human feelings. Even people from the police station or the trial court will send him to Nanjing Cemetery to meet Cooper tonight. Cooper has been very busy recently, and I think his joints are stiff. Mr. Cooper is the teacher's friend and a powerful zombie. Blanca saw Mr. Cooper take action on the night when Obaid was shot. It's not that, teacher, I just feel disillusioned. Blanca found it difficult to understand the topics that the teacher and the giant talked about with great interest. Teacher, how can you talk about those superficial things with Mr. Butcher? One of you is a level 5 wizard and the other is a level 4 giant. We are both powerful apostles in Fabro City. We shouldn't talk about things that concern Fabro City. Is it a serious matter of safety? Well, this is something. The students misunderstood him and thought that Rudolph was not a serious person. Rudolph explained. Mr. Butcher is not the person you think. In fact, most of the apostles are not interested in grand narratives. Mr. Butcher will not take action unless absolutely necessary. For him, survival is more important than anything else. He doesn't care about important matters concerning the safety of Fabro City. If you think the communication skills between giant men and giant women are superficial, then we can talk about something a little more profound. Just after tonight's cleanup, I have some insights. The teacher's expression suddenly became serious, making both Blanca and Arimon nervous. I thought you two were going to ask me tonight whether it was just to clean up the apostles in an area without distinguishing between good and evil, without providing evidence. But you two didn't. You didn't think about this issue, Ludolf said. Blanca, Arimon, you will continue to live in Fabro City and will not leave here until you are promoted to level 5 wizards. Before that, Fabro City is the safest place for you. The city of Fabro, or other cities as well, is a city where apostles and ordinary people live together. I believe that as a wizard, it is necessary to correctly understand the relationship between apostles and ordinary people, so as to provide internal motivation for our actions and decisions. If you hunt for relics in a haphazard manner and continue to advance, your behavior will only become more and more chaotic in the future, and you will have mental problems sooner or later. While Rudolph was organizing his speech, Arimon said, Teacher, Blanca has a list of participants in the Night of Blood Mist. Most of the people on that list died in several of your actions, teacher. After I killed the level 1 and level 2 apostles left on the list, I fell into confusion. Is this confusion what you call unexplained? Yes, that kind of confusion is caused by you losing your goal and your belief. Rudolph said. Wizards must die. Not only do other apostles hate us wizards, but we ourselves will also be tortured by mental illness after hunting down many apostles. There are many crazy and suicidal wizards. Not all wizards are murderers, as long as they are normal people feel guilty when they kill people. As your teacher, I can teach you a way. As long as you have a correct understanding of the relationship between apostles and ordinary people, you can understand the value of the identity of wizard and the significance of the existence of an apostle-like wizard. The meaning of the existence of wizards is a question that the two students have never thought about. We can divide this world into two parts, one is the world of apostles, and the other is the world of ordinary people. If an apostle suddenly appeared among a group of ordinary people, what kind of relationship would they have? If nothing else, the apostle will soon become the master of ordinary people. To ordinary people, each apostle has superpowers, and each apostle can easily defeat or even torture ordinary people. Apostles hold the power of apostles and are blessed with power, wisdom, faith, plague, etc. Ordinary people are so weak in front of apostles and have no ability to resist. Therefore, ordinary people can only rely on certain apostles and attach themselves to certain people. Only these apostles can survive. This model once existed, and it was the city-state era in the history books. Before the establishment of the Knight Empire, according to historical records, there were tribes or city-states controlled by apostles on the continent. Countless apostles miss the city-state era, which was the golden age of the apostles. The city-state has a powerful apostle as its core, and each city serves a certain apostle, just like each independent slave manor. The hobby of the city-state lord is the hobby of the whole town. If the city-state lord likes a thin waist, then all women would starve themselves to death. If they are told that removing 2 ribs can make their waists thinner, they dare to remove 4. If it is the city-state era now, then Fabro is my city, I am the king here, the master here, everything here. The land, minerals, water, women, and other wealth here all belong to me. Vichy, which is larger than Fabro, may belong to a level 6 alchemist. Our neighboring city Mayotte may belong to a vampire. History is recorded by the victors. No one cares about the living conditions of ordinary people in the city-state era, and no one records it. An alchemist who studies history found on a mural in a cave that there were 2 city-state lords trading at that time. A strong man was equal to 2 sheep, and a fertile woman was equal to 1 sheep. The city-state era lasted for thousands of years. During those thousands of years of chaos and division, the abilities of the apostles developed slowly, the technology developed slowly, and ordinary people were slaves of the apostles, living a very miserable life in today's view. If you regard a certain type of apostle as a whole, the total energy of the 12 apostles in the city-state era is similar. The apostles restrained each other and would not let a certain type of apostle become powerful. All this changed because of the strength of the knights. The knights brought the cavalry to end the golden age of the apostles and the beautiful city-state era. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 509. A genius knight developed the Guardian Chain, which is a plug-in-like ability. The Guardian Chain allows the knight to have the ability to fight beyond his level. More importantly, it can extract the limit power of ordinary cavalry, which greatly increases the knight's total energy, breaking the balance between apostles and standing out in the city-state era. The knights believe that ordinary people are very valuable. They select cavalry from ordinary people, knights, squires, cavalry, hired farmers. This huge system accommodates a lot of ordinary people and allows ordinary people to have a stable life for the first time. Ordinary people are no longer slaves to knights, but tools that can increase the knight's combat effectiveness, and all knights benefit from it. With the addition of ordinary people's limit power, the knight's total energy is much greater than that of other apostles, and other apostles are no match for knights at all. Under the leadership of high-level knights, the cavalry corps broke through city-states one by one. At the end of the city-state era, no one was the opponent of the knights. The knights carried the lords of the city-states on their spears. They killed the apostles in the city-states and rescued the ordinary slaves there. Ordinary people were driven into the knights' territory, where they farmed for the knights, trained for the knights, and became the knights' cavalry, making the knights stronger. For the knights, whoever had more ordinary people was stronger. As knight empires were established, they attracted ordinary people with better conditions, and population became the key to whether the empire was strong or not. The lives of ordinary people were greatly improved, and the knights formulated a series of rules so that farmers could continuously provide them with extreme power. These rules eventually became the moral code of the knights, such as kindness, forgiveness, respect for women, etc. The knights themselves called these knightly virtues. The knights sometimes beat ordinary cavalry into mummies at the most critical moments of the battle. This was certainly a criminal act, but compared to the city-state era, the combination of knights and cavalry was so advanced that it completely changed the production structure of the continent. The knights ended the situation of the apostles fighting in the city-state era and brought order to the continent for the first time. Blanca and Ahriman looked surprised. They also knew the legends of the ancient city-state era, but they never thought that the lives of ordinary people in the city-state era were miserable. The knight's fighting style is actually very cruel, but according to the teacher, the knights seem to be better than the apostles in the city-state era? Rudolf continued. The most glorious period of the knights was the god-slaying war more than 2,000 years ago. With the support of the entire continent, Emperor Alec actually defeated the evil god, killed 3 evil gods, and drove the evil god to the southern continent. Of course, there are some secrets of immortality involved here, and wizards played an ignominious role in it. I will tell you later. No matter what the final result is, the fighting power of the knights has forced the evil gods to avoid it. From then on, for a long time, the lives of ordinary people were very simple. They farmed for the knights, tried to eat a strong body, and then became the knights' cavalry. It was not the knights who ruled the continent, but the knights who found a way to extract energy from ordinary people. It was the knights and ordinary people who ruled the continent. This state lasted for a long time until the alchemists achieved a breakthrough in technology in their long-term theoretical accumulation, which brought the second major change to the continent. Ahriman and Blanca kept thinking about the situation of ordinary people in the past as Rudolf told them, and they really wanted to know what changes the alchemists had made in the relationship between the apostles and ordinary people. Alchemists have found another way for ordinary people to survive: leave the land and enter the alchemist's factory. On a mature production line, dozens of ordinary workers can produce a large number of powerful weapons in a short period of time, and can also produce a large number of daily necessities. In the hands of knights, ordinary people are farmers who grow crops and consumables that are sucked dry on the battlefield. This method of utilization is too inefficient. In the alchemist's factory, the value of ordinary people is further increased. The powerful mass production capacity makes the total energy of alchemists far higher than that of other apostles. A salvo of multiple rocket launchers can easily defeat the knight's charge. The knight may not die, but the ordinary cavalry behind the knight will definitely die. The gap in strength between the knights and alchemists became more and more disparate, until the constitutional movement more than 200 years ago, when the alchemists relied on saturation artillery fire to defeat the knights on the front battlefield. The knights were defeated and the alchemists gained the right to rule. The deep-seated reason is that ordinary people they prefer to work in factories and live in cities with complete municipal facilities. For example, going to the toilet is much more comfortable than using a dry toilet on the farm. Compared with turning the soil in the land, working in the city is much more comfortable and the income is higher. The assembly line factory makes materials abundant, and life is better with the alchemist, so ordinary people have switched sides, and the strength of alchemists and knights has reversed. Alchemists are getting stronger and knights are getting weaker. Except for the Meguen Empire in the north, which is still the Knight Empire, other kingdoms have either become constitutional monarchies or cut off the Knight monarch to become the United States. In the alchemist's factory, ordinary people go to work at 9 in the morning and get off work at 9 in the evening, working 6 days a week. It is miserable, but it is much better than the life in the Knight Empire. The farmers in the Knight's territory fled to the alchemist's territory, which greatly reduced the number of Knight's cavalry, and they were even more devastated on the battlefield. The alchemist did not defeat the knight to become the ruler, but the alchemist found a more efficient mechanism to use ordinary people, so that the overall energy of the alchemist is far greater than that of the knight. Therefore, it was the alchemist and ordinary people who defeated the knight together. The essence of these two major changes is that whoever can use ordinary people more efficiently will become the most powerful apostle on the continent. The difference in the strength of the 12 apostles themselves is not that great. The addition of ordinary people has widened the gap between the knights and alchemists and other apostles. I can now easily defeat the Alchemy Council of Fabreau City, and even the County Council may not be my opponent, but I will never be the king of Fabreau City, the master of Fabreau City, because I can't provide better job opportunities and better food sources for the people here. Apart from fear, I can't think of an effective means of rule. After avenging Claude, I no longer have obsessions in my heart, so I can look at the Alchemy Council more rationally. If I really want to make the people in Dordo district live better, I found that I have only one choice, that is, to turn around and protect the Alchemy Council, instead of continuing to attack the council. Blanca and Arimon finally understood why the teacher compromised with the city council. After avenging his friend, the teacher acted more like a police officer than the police chief and more like a witch hunter than the chief of the trial. Rudolph thought of another thing and frowned. I once took in a beggar named Zack in Lehman Town. Unfortunately, he became a priest of pain. If knights and alchemists have merits in treating ordinary people, then the evil priests are at the other extreme. They rule believers and ordinary people with fear. I've been a little busy at work recently. It's the end of the semester. I'm sorry to ask for 2 or 3 days off. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 510. When talking about the evil god, Rudolph's tone was much lower. He thought of the Black Queen Jessica, the evil god Parrish in the southern continent, and Ivy and Director Mizu who were killed by fraud. The fraud card was still in his pocket. It was a time bomb, but he could only continue to deceive fraud. Fraud had already known some of his secrets. The later this bomb was detonated, the better. Rudolph continued to tell his 2 students. The evil gods rule the southern continent, but they are far worse to ordinary people than knights and alchemists. They drive ordinary people by faith, or in other words, by intimidation, and by the fact that if they do not believe in their evil gods, they will be punished by the evil gods. Anyone who does not believe in me will go to hell. This sentence appears in the first few lines of every evil god cult's doctrine. For the evil god cult, there are only 2 identities, believers and blasphemers. Anyone who does not believe in the evil god is a blasphemer who should be executed. The name heretic apostle was originally used by the evil god priest to call other apostles. Later, the alchemist thought that this name could accurately define those damned and disobedient other apostles, so he used it. The southern continent is a place ruled by intimidation. In my opinion, that there is despair in the place. If you go to the south continent in the future, be very careful. I went around the south continent and didn't go deep. Safety is one thing, but more importantly, I was afraid to see the believers lying on the ground deep in the evil god church. I couldn't see any hope in them. They were like weeds bent by a bunch of insects, providing insignificant nutrients and covered with sores. All the benefits went to the evil gods and priests. The believers worked all their lives, and the end of their lives was to donate all their wealth to the temple in exchange for the evil gods' blessings for their afterlife, but who knew if there was an afterlife? Anyone who didn't believe in me would go to hell. This was a lie that could neither be falsified nor proven true. The evil gods easily harvested the believers' faith by intimidation. The more faith the believers contributed, the more the evil god cult would be. The more powerful the priests are, the more aggressive they are in their demands, and the harder the believers live. The harder the believers live, the more they need faith to numb themselves, forming a vicious cycle. When believers pray to the evil god, they will hold some sacrificial rituals, such as Zack has a painful slab. These rituals cannot bless believers, but will instead drain the believer's power of faith. The priest's sacrificial activities will also generate the power of faith. For example, on the sacrificial night in the Dordo district, thousands of ordinary people became servants of God, and the power of faith was so much that pain watched here. These powers of faith converge on the evil god, allowing the evil god to achieve a twisted and flawed eternal life. I am also an apostle who has been transformed from an ordinary person. If I start from the perspective of an ordinary person, I am willing to cooperate with the knight, because the knight can give the farmer a good living environment. I am willing to cooperate with the alchemist, because the alchemist can keep the workers alive in the city. There is no right or wrong, no good or bad, it is just between very bad and worse, Choose a less bad option. However, the evil god priests are apostles that I cannot accept, their existence is sin. They have not brought positive changes to the world, and they are not even as good as knights. They only know how to ask, intimidate, and punish. Zack and bathhouse owner Base, when they are outside the evil god cult, can still maintain basic rationality. When they become priests of the evil god cult and begin to govern believers, they will involuntarily become villains. When Zack left, I hesitated. I knew that Zack would become another person after he went to find the Church of Pain, but I still didn't have the heart to deal with him at that time. I hope Zack can keep himself, which is difficult. I hope that next time we meet, he will still be the Zack who will do everything for his beggar companions. Rudolph's expression became depressed. After a long time, he said, "The age of knights has passed, the age of alchemists has flaws, and the age of evil gods must not come. I think the meaning of wizards' existence is to correct these systems. When there are too many apostles, each apostle occupies several times more resources than ordinary people, which will make ordinary people's lives extremely difficult. At this time, scavengers are needed to clean up the excessive apostles. When the apostles are too cruel, werewolves feed on ordinary people, vampires suck the blood of ordinary people, plague carriers create plagues to promote, and evil gods use bloody sacrifices to please evil gods. At this time, scavengers are needed to clean up those cruel apostles. And wizards seem to be born to do this. The need for wizards to hunt relics is simply the perfect scavenger of these systems. I think this is the meaning of wizards. We are like white blood cells in this huge ecosystem, cleaning up those pathological and harmful apostles. If you start from this perspective, you will not be confused, and you will not fall into a mental breakdown because of hunting too many relics or causing too much killing. Every wizard is a born scavenger and should be a scavenger. Ahriman opened his eyes wide. He was shocked by the teacher's words. It turned out that wizards were not street rats hiding from the XZ. Wizards may have a certain mission, which makes wizards so special among many apostles. No wonder the teacher wiped out the tribe of the Red Wolf King and replaced it with the gentle White Wolf King. No wonder the teacher completely razed the evil temple and did not leave a single priest. No wonder the teacher wanted to clean up the apostles in the Dordo area. The Dordo area is so fragile. Only by doing a deep cleanup of the Dordo area can the lives of ordinary people be less bad. Rudolph continued. All three of us were transformed from ordinary people into apostles by mistake in a disaster. I became a wizard in the witch hunt against Bloody Salem. That was a bad memory. I almost died in Bloody Salem's hands. You too had your blood samples taken away by the vampires on the night of the sacrifice. If I hadn't helped you become wizards, you would have become blood servants now. Emotionally speaking, you too should still sympathize with ordinary people now. I hope you will always maintain this sympathy. Other apostles regard wizards as poisonous scorpions, but on this street, turn around and see how many people are hiding behind the curtains, looking at the apostles as if they were seeing poisonous scorpions. We cannot bring new production relations to the continent, but we can make this world belonging to the apostles not so bad. Scavenger, this is my understanding of wizards. Definition, which is also the purpose of our future actions. Our own promotion is very important. If we can, we should take the initiative to clean up those evil apostles. This will benefit both ourselves and ordinary people. Wizards are arsenic to apostles, but honey to ordinary people. Rudolph then fell into deep thought. Libra wizards have the Black Gold Institute, Pisces wizards have the Ancient Sea Wizard Association. What name do you think we should give ourselves? There is no need to worry about the category of wizards. As long as they share the same philosophy as us, any wizard can be. Scavenger Wizard Association? It's a bit ordinary. Arsenic Wizard Alliance? It doesn't sound good. Honey Wizard Group? Ahriman felt that the teacher's naming ability was really bad. Obviously, The concept of the apostle scavenger is very high, so how could such an ugly name appear? Blanca added, the honey wizard group is good. Honey is sweet and can dispel some of the negative images of wizards. Oh? Do you also think that the honey wizard group is better? Rudolph was very happy that Blanca approved of his idea. Wait, Ahriman hurriedly stopped the two people's dangerous discussion. If he continued, he might really get an ugly organization name. Teacher, just call it the Scavengers. Don't add anything. We will all be scavengers in the future. After thinking about it, Rudolph felt that it was not suitable to name it tonight. He had no inspiration, so he made a decision. Then call yourself the Scavengers, the Scavenger Wizards, and this will be our code of conduct in the future. Ahriman, Blanca, after you become level 3 wizards with good self-protection ability, you can also recruit wizard apprentices, pass on our ideas, and let this apostle world have more scavengers. Add one more chapter and take 2 or 3 days off. Isn't it conscientious? Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 511. At the train station in Fabreau City, a handsome young man stepped off the train. He glanced at the city in the distance and finally arrived at his destination. Passers-by looked sideways because this young man was so handsome, especially the pearl earrings hanging on his ears, which made his skin even whiter. Zachary ignored the gazes of passers-by. These people dared to stare at his earrings. This was a level 5 witchcraft, a level 5 destructive light bead. The apostle who died in the hands of this witchcraft in a secret place had already died. There were no less than 10 people. The witchcraft given to him by Mr. Furnace is very useful and makes up for his lack of frontal attack power. In the dark bedroom, the delicious red wine will be illuminated by dazzling white light, and the enemy's eyes will be blinded. The power of the apostle will burn like a fire, causing severe burns to the enemy. It took a month to finally arrive at Mr. Furnace's hometown from Redbeard Island. I wonder if I can persuade Mr. Furnace to return to Saragosse again this time. Redbeard Island has always maintained its reputation through the Green Skull and the Furnace, but now there is a more powerful threat, forcing him to find the real owner of Redbeard Island. He couldn't contact Mr. Rudolph and the owner of the Green Skull Island for a period of time. That was when Rudolph was lurking in Fabreau City. Later, he got news from the advisors through the nobles of Coderport. After taking out Mr. Rudolph's token, the noble young master of Port Cordo received him and gave Zachary some information, so he knew how to find Mr. Rudolph here. Leaving the train station, Zachary never saw so many people again. On the empty trams, some only had the driver sitting on them, and some had 3 or 2 people sitting on them. The intelligence says that most of the residents in the city are blood servants of the vampire clan. It should be more lively at night than it is now. After taking out a map to identify the direction, Zachary walked towards the police station. The patrolman informed Blanca that someone was waiting for her in the reception room of the police station. The colleague also winked at Blanca, making Blanca confused as to who came to the police station to find her. When Blanca entered the reception room, she saw the young man on the sofa and was surprised by his handsomeness. But Blanca is already a wizard who has seen big scenes, and she knows that such a handsome young man must be abnormal. "Hello, are you looking for me?" "Yes, Patrolman Blanca. I am Zachary, Mr. Furnace's subordinate in Saragosse. I want to find the consultant of Redbeard Island, Mr. Furnace, through you." Blanca hurriedly looked around to make sure there was no one else at the door of the reception room, then turned to look at Zachary again. "Of course, you can also find the island owner, Mr. Green Skull, but Mr. Green Skull doesn't make the final decision on many things, so you'd better go directly to Mr. Furnace." Seeing Blanca looking like she was in a mental struggle, Zachary took out a cane. Ebony cane decorated with silver-chromed metal balls and red spots on the body. The tip of the stick is also chrome-plated metal, with some red copper wires as decoration. Each part of the cane is a witchcraft weapon, and it is also a level 4 witchcraft weapon. This cane is a collection of several level 4 witchcraft weapons. When she saw the cane, Blanca understood that this man was right, he was indeed the teacher's subordinate. She was also very strange. She remembered that every time she saw the teacher had a cane. This time she came back and officially became the teacher's student, but she never saw the cane again. She thought the cane was damaged in a battle. "Please come with me," Blanca said, "it's noon now. The teacher may be in 2 places. I'm not sure where he is. We have to try." "Thank you very much, Patrolman Blanca." Blanca led Zachary out of the police station. She was a little confused. Not only did the teacher's subordinate hold the teacher's cane, but he could also call out her name accurately. What is his identity? The two walked on the empty streets of Fabreau City during the day, heading towards the Dordo district. Try to go to Yanila's house first. The teacher sometimes takes a nap at Yanila's house. After entering the Dordo district, Zachary found that it was busier than other places. There were many people coming in and out of restaurants and coffee shops at noon, and it finally looked like a normal city. There are a lot of people here, and it's much more lively than the neighborhoods we just passed by. After hearing Zachary's comments, Blanca replied, "A few months ago, the teacher cleaned up the apostles in Dordo district, which is recovering quickly. Dordo district is now synonymous with safety, and everyone knows that the chances of encountering an accident here are very low. Well, if it was Mr. Furness who took action, it would make sense." After knocking on the door of Yanila's house, Yanila's sleepy expression suddenly sobered up, and she looked at Zachary behind Blanca with vigilance. Silver snake. A male silver snake. Rudolph had never said that his tastes were so broad. How could there be a male silver snake, and a high-level silver snake at that? Yanila felt threatened by the high-level apostle. Zachary looked at Yanila and said in his heart that it was like this. No wonder Mr. Furness took a nap here. This nap must be very comfortable. He could tell that the charming Yanila in front of him was sure to please Mr. Furness. He also felt it was a pity, if only Mr. Rudolph were not so resistant to pure love, so that he could have a chance. "Patrol Blanca, who is that behind you?" He said he was the teacher's subordinate, and he also took out a token as he spoke. Blanca pointed to the cane. Yanila also knew this cane. For a long time, this cane was Rudolph's most handy magic weapon. Zachary smiled at Yanila and said that he was harmless. "Rudolph is not here. He didn't come today. You can try Baron Jennifer." "Okay, then I'll try the Baron's mansion in Rondo district." After the two left, Yanila sulked at Zachary's back. It was too much. No wonder she couldn't get promoted recently. It must be because Rudolph had a new silver snake. The next time they met, she must let Rudolph know how powerful she was. She learned a new way to use her tongue. After entering the wealthy Rondo district, Zachary found that the environment here was much more beautiful. There were many trees planted on both sides of the clean stone road, and there were flower beds and other decorations every few meters. The butler knew Patrolman Blanca. He took the two to the Baron's study. Not long after, Rudolph entered the study. "Zachary, it's you. What happened to Redbeard Island?" Zachary said. "Mr. Furness, the Sarago Sea is shrouded in the shadow of war. The evil god cult has issued a notice to all pirate groups, requiring us to assist their navy, otherwise they will send troops to destroy us first. They only give us 2 months to consider, so I came to see you, hoping that you can make a decision as soon as possible."